So I haven't done a maintenance video in a little while. I thought today we could talk about tires. I'm going to be changing out the tires on the X2 original. So we're going to change it from these knobby tires to more of a dual sport looking tread. So a quick disclaimer. This is for entertainment purposes only. I will not be debating tire size or tread pattern in the comments. Who showed you to pick this size and this color tire? My bike told me to do this. I'm not a professional. I've never done this before. This is not an instructional video, and I'm probably doing this the wrong way with all the wrong tools. So again, entertainment purposes only, but you get the gist of it. So let's talk about the new tire we're putting on. So this is the new one. So it's more of an all-terrain tire. It's going to perform more like a street tire because it's more flat, and it still has a lot of deep grooves for in case we do go in some sand or some light dirt. So I didn't want to go a straight street terrain tire. I like this one just to try out on this bike and just see how it performs. And I might hate it. I might want to go strictly street. But right now we're going to do this one, and once these treads start to wear down, we'll try a different tread pattern on this one. But this is the one I went with, and it is a different size, so I do want to point that out. It's an 80 by 90 by 19 MC, and that's going to be a little bit wider. I'm not going to get into the specs of the numbers, but if you go online and type in the size different, this number and that number, there'll be a size chart. Will tell you the difference of the two different tires. But it should fit on the same rim because it's for a 19-inch rim. And we do have a little bit of space right and left of the tire. So even though it is a little wider, it's still going to fit in the front and rear between the forks and the swing arm. Front tire is off. Now we're going to let all the air out and then begin removing the tire. I do want to mention when you're getting your first grip on that bead to make sure the opposite side is pushed into the middle. That way you can get the most slack to pull the tire off. I'm going to remove the tire tube before I pull the tire off the rim, just so that I don't pinch the tube and tear it. This step you can do a couple different ways. You can put the rim in the tire, or you can just pull it right off and use your levers on this side, but just however you want, take the tire off. So here's a very important part, especially if you have the original X2, is you want to inspect your rim. You want to inspect to see like this, where your tape is not covering these spokes, because that could pop your tire. Also where the valve stem goes. So right here, there's a few owners that there's a little burr right there where the metal is kind of sticking up, and that could be an issue with the rim. Now mine doesn't have like a really sharp edge, but I think I'm still going to take a little file and kind of rub it around the edge right there and make sure that it's a smooth, rounded edge. So before I put my new tire on my rim, I want to double check to make sure this is not a directional tire, which means certain tires go a certain direction. There'll be an arrow that says, hey, if it's rolling, you want it to roll this way. So if the arrow was pointing towards this label, that means it would roll this way forward, which would be correct. If it was pointing that way, you spin it around and the arrow on this side should be pointing forward. So as of right now, I kind of like putting this, because this one has a label on it right here. It has the company, but not on this side. I think I'm going to put that on my right side. That's the only deciding factor for putting it this way. So that's it. I'm just going to go ahead and put it on the rim. I worked one side of my tire on. I'm going to replace the tube and then work the second side. Now, I don't use any powder or that other type of lubricant to do this, but you know, it'd make it probably easier. Or if I had a spoon guard that would, you know, help my rim from not getting scuffed up. Yeah, I don't have those tools, so I'm making do with what I have. So I'm gonna do that, put the other side on, and then it should be finished. So quick tips to get the final push to have the tire on is, number one, make sure your disc is up, because that's gonna be great for leverage when you're using your spoons or levers to put under there like that. Tip number two is make sure that your tube has a little bit of air. You saw before I had a little bit of air. It just makes it to where you don't pinch it. I've pinched and torn a lot of different tires because I've put it in there flat. So you want to put it in there, and if you have to, pump it up on this side when this edge is not in there, because you're not going to be able to get it unless you pull this way tight like that. And I don't like pulling on the valve stem. Tip number three is, as you're working your way through, make sure that that outer edge is pushed down to that center line so you get the most leverage and it gives you the most slack on the opposite side. And finally, when you're airing this up before you put it back on the bike, you want to make sure that the valve stem is pointed straight down. And so I've used the little locking nut to kind of pull the valve stem out a little bit. And now I'm gonna kind of bounce it a little bit and straighten it out, make sure it's pretty straight. And then I'm gonna add air. And as I add air, I'm gonna bounce it kind of in a circle to make sure the tube is flowing evenly. Now I know this might be a silly last step, but it's just something I do, whether it's superstition, whether it works or not, that's how I do it. And then we're gonna finally put it back on our bike. Now when putting the axle back on, it's up to you if you wanna put some axle grease or not. But one of the biggest things you wanna look for is make sure you put this in the right way. And so you see this nut has 2 flat sides and the groove right here has 2 flat sides. So you wanna make sure that it goes in like this. And you see how it fits and how it doesn't turn? So you wanna make sure that that goes in the correct way. So I'm sure a few people wanna know the weight of the tire. So this is the old one, this is the new one. I'm gonna give the weight of both. So I know this is missing a little bit of tread, but it's missing less tread than the back. So this is gonna give us a more accurate reading. So 5 pounds, 12 ounces, 5 pounds, 12 ounces. Now for the new tire. 7 pounds, 3.7. Let's say 7 pounds, 3 ounces. It's staying pretty close to that. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. So that's a little bit of extra weight that we have on our tires, but it's for the speed of this bike and everything, I don't think it's gonna be a big deal. So when removing the back tire from the swing arm, be very careful right here because this is kind of spring loaded and it's just barely sitting in there. So whenever you get this off, you'll see what I'm talking about. Watch, I can pull it probably straight off the back. There you go. So you saw how it kind of came back like that. So just be very careful when you're taking that off. Unscrew this. And then there's no tension bar right here, which I might get a little tension rod, but they have a little washer, and so that goes back on like this. So this side is slightly different because on this side I actually have the bracket that I pull my kids with. So this bracket right here allows me to attach that little wagon to pull them. But I'm going to take all this off so it's not rattling and making noise while I'm working on the tire. Now on this side there is a little washer on the opposite side with a bend, and that's to hold it in the right position. It's kind of a torque bar, but I really think I'm going to look into getting a torque bar that bolts on right here and holds the rear axle to the front. So once you've undo all your zip ties, it should come all the way back. If this doesn't move freely, you can take a 10mm wrench and you might want to twist this because it might be locked into place. So if you kind of wiggle this as you pull, it should come right out. So this is exactly like the front tire, so I'm not going to show this process. Just repeat what I did on the front. Just be careful of your motor and your wire. Now I've used these boards to prop it up. That way the axle doesn't have a bunch of pressure on the opposite side. But I'm going to deflate it, take this one off, and put the new tire on. All right, everything's back together. I just took it out on a ride and I came back. I wanted to end my video with my thoughts on how it rides with the new tires. Now I did have a mishap before I took off. I actually broke a spoke. If you see right here, there's a spot missing, but it still rode good. So I'm gonna have to replace that. I might take this opportunity to go bigger with the spoke size. But these tires are great. And now if you do get these exact tires, just know that this logo is only on one side. So I made sure the right side is the side with both the logos. The other side is just all black like this. But it rode extra smooth. It stayed more on a center line, just like the X2 Pro drives. And when I took a deep turn, it wasn't skipping on these knobs. It was having that grip. So I took a deep turn. It really grabbed the road. Even though parts of the road are kind of wet right now, I got a little mud and pollen on my tires, but still, it worked great. I'm super impressed with these. Now again, for the size difference, these tires are an 80 by 90 by 19, and the originals are 70 by 100 by 19. So either one of these is working on the X2, and I think this is a way better ride. So I hope this helped. Again, this is for entertainment purposes only. There's no one way to change a tire, so something that I did, you might not do, or something that I missed that you do. Everybody changes tires different, so I just wanted to give this to help, just a general idea of switching the tires and how it worked on my bike. So thank you for watching to the end. I know mechanic videos or maintenance videos are boring, but again, thanks for watching. Thank you everybody for subscribing. Please share my videos with others. Turn off your device and head out on a ride.